the morning. Feeling a little chilly under those clearer skies, but on the whole a fairly mild night, so a mild start to Wednesday. A bit of a mixed bag really. We've got plenty of cloud across Scotland, though it is going to be largely dry. Just a few showers beginning to feed into the Northern Isles. Once again largely dry across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, though still can't rule out spots of rain and drizzle, particularly around those hillier areas. Across the rest of England and Wales, a dry start, once again a mix of cloud and those clearer spells and that mist and fog which may just be slow to clear. But as that high pressure builds for Wednesday, there'll be plenty of dry weather around, some cloudier skies at times, but once again we will see some brighter spells. Just starting to see some showers and some longer spells of rain starting to creep into the Northern Isles as we head into the afternoon. Now we're going to see a slight dip in those temperatures tomorrow, but it's still largely mild for the time of year. For Thursday, it's a fairly similar picture. Once again, some mist and fog to start, but it is going to be largely dry. Damp across Scotland, though, particularly as we head into the afternoon, starting to see some longer spells of rain, particularly across the Northern Isles once again. But on the whole, plenty of dry, settled weather around and remaining fairly similar to end of the week and as we head into the weekend, and temperatures rather mild once again for the time of year.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you the chance to win everything you need to celebrate the festivities. There's £20,025 in tax-free cash. There's £5,000 to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £500 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag. We'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For your chance to win, call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB09 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's speak now to Sales Director at Savills for Quinta Properties, Raquel Santos, who is live for us in Portugal. Raquel, good to see you this morning. Why are all these celebrities flocking to Portugal all of a sudden?
Yeah, I guess it's just because of basically the great lifestyle that we have, security, Portugal has kind of been a hidden, tucked away gem for quite a while that people didn't realize existed. And with the international flights that, with the American flights coming in, it's kind of been put back on the map as a country that's worth visiting and worth investing in due to the secure investments that we offer in real estate.
Raquel, is it anything to do with tax rates? Because I think capital gains tax is, I think if it's over a certain amount, you pay half of your rate, which is 28%. Capital gains on shares and cryptocurrencies is 0. Is it anything to do with that? Because over here in the UK, big storm at the moment about millionaires apparently leaving in exodus because of the mooted increases in taxes in just a few weeks.
Yes, so obviously the alterations that are happening with the UK in terms of the tax that's being implemented on the capital gains, as you mentioned, we've definitely noticed has become a big drive, mostly on the vendor side as well, who are looking to sell because they don't want to be hit, with these higher capital gains, which is close to coming into effect.
Raquel, have you noticed then millionaires, high net worth people from the UK getting in touch with you looking to relocate?
Definitely. It's for multiple reasons, obviously, the changes that are due to come into place, obviously, and Portugal just seems to be a safe option always when things do kind of change. People opt to come into Portugal because we're quite steady, we're quite stable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Budget Day on GB News tomorrow. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight
and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it?
Budget Day, tomorrow on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for Headliners. 3 comedians bringing you the very best of Wednesday's newspapers as they roll straight off the press. Join us to find out why white children are winning games of Monopoly, which Tory politician praised colonialism, and why did Penelope Keith spit at a group of nuns? Now, one of these may not be true, so stick around to find out which. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me tonight are comedians Leo Kearse and Paul Cox. This is Headliners. And we'll be taking you through Wednesday's newspapers in just one moment. But before that, here's tomorrow's news. Here's the headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Good evening. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. It's just gone 11 o'clock. The suspect accused of murdering 3 young girls in July's Southport stabbing attacks is facing 2 new charges. Axel Rudakabana is now charged with producing the biological toxin ricin and possessing an Al-Qaeda training manual for potential terrorism preparations. The charges are separate to those over the killings of the girls. The police are not treating the stabbings as an act of terrorism. Rudakabana will appear via video link at Westminster Magistrates Court tomorrow. Conservative leadership candidate Robert Jenrick has said he was concerned facts may have been withheld from the public. Meanwhile, the Home Secretary warned against speculation on the Southport attacks after additional charges were brought against the suspect. Yvette Cooper said the most important thing is to get justice for Bibi, Alice and Elsie and their heartbroken families and all those affected by the attack, and nobody should put that at risk. More than 1 million low-paid workers will get a pay rise of nearly 7% next year, as the government has confirmed minimum wage will be increased in the budget tomorrow. The minimum wage will rise to £12.21 an hour next year, after the Chancellor confirmed a 6.7% increase. Businesses have warned of the impact of a rise alongside an increase in the national insurance contributions they must pay on the wages. Meanwhile, on the eve of her budget, Rachel Reeves has replaced a portrait of Margaret Thatcher's Chancellor with a picture of one of the founding members of the Communist Party of Great Britain. The Treasury released a photograph of the Chancellor in her office in front of a new portrait of former Labour Education Minister Ellen Wilkinson. Miss Wilkinson was one of the founding members of the Communist Party of Great Britain in 1920 before becoming a Labour MP. Now, the Prime Minister has warned that Israel's ban on the UN's relief work in Gaza will deepen the suffering of Palestinians, calling the crisis in the region simply unacceptable. Sir Keir Starmer's demanding an immediate ceasefire, the release of hostages and a major increase in aid to Gaza, warning the ban jeopardises essential health and education services. The law passed by Israel's parliament strips UN staff of legal protections and labels the United Nations Relief and Works Agency a terror organisation. To the US now, where Donald Trump has taken aim at his rival, Kamala Harris, accusing her of heartless and cold-blooded betrayal over borders. The Republican presidential candidate has been speaking at his Mar-a-Lago, Florida residence with 1 week to go till the US election. Despite keeping crowds waiting, he was greeted by chants of USA, USA. Trump also took another swipe at Harris, claiming she launched a coup to steal the presidency from Joe Biden. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. It's your first look at Wednesday's top stories with 3 comedians. I'm Andrew Doyle, and with me tonight is the comedic duo of ectomorph Leo Kearse and endomorph Paul Cox. You need to know what that means. Just look it up. Are you both well?
Is that from Ghostbusters?
Yeah. No, that's ectoplasm.
Yeah.
That's the residue that ghosts leave behind when they haunt libraries.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's science, Leo.
Yeah, that is science for you.
Undeniable.
Yeah, I got my science GCSE. I know what I'm talking about. We're going to start off now, Leo, with the Daily Mail. You've got this.
So the Daily Mail leads with the story that a lot of papers are leading with. Southport suspect had ricin poison and Al-Qaeda material. So this is the Southport accused. Obviously, the trial is coming up in January, so there are new charges, new terror charges added to that trial, or I don't know if there's going to be a subsequent trial for the new charges. So we've got to be very careful about what we say.
We can't really comment on it other than to say it's happening.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, it is interesting that, you know, when it happened, we were told this is the most British man of all time. He was born in Cardiff, which makes him incredibly British, even though somehow people whose ancestors have lived in Australia or America for 400 years are still on stolen land. But he was born in Cardiff, so yeah, I mean, I reckon my top three British people are probably Hugh Grant, King Charles, and Axel Mugwanwa Rudakabana. That's the most British people of all time, I'd say. And now it's turned out that, well, you know, these aren't traditional British hobbies. Creating ricin and possessing Al-Qaeda terror training manuals.
Well, let's move on from that story. I mean, there's also a picture of Nadine Dorries looking fabulous.
Fabulous.
Well, she says she's lost 2 stone with Ozempic.
Yeah.
But can she keep it? I think she just wants to show off that dress. It's a fantastic dress.
She does look marvellous, doesn't she?
But can you keep it up with Ozempic? Do we even know? You know, I mean,
I've no idea.
Well, there haven't been long-term studies.
No, I've no idea. I probably should try. I mean, Wes Streeting will be happy, won't he?
Why?
Because he's going to use Ozempic to save the NHS. So maybe, now she's been on Ozempic, we can get Nadine back to work.
Maybe. We've also got the Eye, and they're going with the Rachel Reeves story. She's been around in the press over the past week or two.
Hasn't she just?
Yeah.
The Eye here trying to spin some joy out of what's likely to be the biggest day of doom for some time tomorrow.
Yeah.
Reeves hands a 6.7 wage rise to lower earners as millions face painful tax increases. Painful tax increases, which the manifesto said would never happen, by the way.
What's happening with her black hole at the moment? Because
I tell you what, and I'm glad we're focusing on her black hole because it is getting bigger.
Well, that's what they keep saying. Like, it was 22 billion. And then it was now it's bigger. Or is it,
I think it's
40 billion.
Is it 40 now?
It's 40 billion. But I mean, she's just making up numbers. I mean, luckily after 5 years of Labour, I mean, 40 billion. It'll be like Zimbabwean lira. The inflation is going to be so insane. We'll be using 40 billion in a wheelbarrow to buy your bread.
It all sounds marvellous, doesn't it? 6.7% wage rise. It's the equivalent of it's going up from £11.44 to £12.12. It's the equivalent of chucking a 50p piece at a ball person and saying, don't spend it all at once.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to solve... I went shopping this afternoon, and just to pick up a few bits. You can easily do 40 quid without thinking about it.
Yeah.
So people on the... And that's just bread, butter, cheese, all the things I eat for lunch.
I mean, 40 quid of bread and butter for you.
Quite a few loaves.
I enjoy my lunch.
Yeah.
What can I say?
You're quite a carby fellow, aren't you?
I'm very carby.
Yeah.
I'm on the full carb diet, to be fair. But it does feel a little patronising. And of course they're saying, you know, there's not. They did say there weren't going to be tax rises, and they are going to tax businesses. But when you tax businesses, everybody gets taxed.
And this is effectively a tax rise as well, because these costs will be passed on to employers who will have to pay their employees more for the minimum wage, and then obviously they'll have to charge customers more. And this will be, in particular, service industries, hospitality. Weatherspoons, its share price apparently dropped on the news. So, you know, these are the places that working people use.
Yes.
So working people are going to end up paying for this as well, on top of the tax rises that we were told wouldn't happen.
But Leo, are you not excited that it's the first woman ever delivering the budget? Because I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying this is an exciting moment.
I mean, no.
Right, there we go. I think that pretty much sums that up. Let's move on to the Telegraph. The front of Wednesday's Telegraph, they've also got the Southport attacker, possessed Al-Qaeda manual. They've also got Chancellor gives armed forces £3 billion boost. Anything to add, Leo?
Yeah, so this is good news for the armed forces, at least, which have been chronically underfunded over the last few years, because we haven't seen a credible threat until now. And now we see, Putin, and Putin is actually making advances in Ukraine. He's going to come out of the war, which, I mean, I can see the sort of hot phase of the war ending next year, probably early next year, and then we're going to be in locked in a Cold War with Russia again. But
why will it end? Because of Trump?
Trump's probably going to end it. But also, I mean, both sides are just exhausted. Like, Ukraine's going to have to push for a deal, but Russia is going to have an army, a standing army with military experience. He's going to have a wartime economy. So in a couple of years, Europe is going to be absolutely threatened. And it's also interesting, just going back to this Southport attacker, they could have released, the police knew they had this material. This would have affected the trials of people being held that have been convicted for, stirring up racial hatred and other things, because they spread things that we were told were conspiracy theories at the time. So I don't know why the police couldn't release that material sooner and maybe affect some of those trials.
Your thoughts, Paul?
I don't have any thoughts on Southport. Sorry. What I will say is £3 billion is only a third of what they're going to spend on net zero, by the way, next year. The other thing, of course, is Rolls-Royce chief here warns of growth risk, but not now they've got a £12 minimum wage rise. So I think that story's null and void now.
Well, let's have a look at the front of The Guardian. What's this all about?
What's this all about? Israeli strike on flats in northern Gaza kills at least 93. Of course, this is tragic. We report on this daily. One thing I would say is whenever, particularly The Guardian, put a photograph on the front page, I don't know why they always make it look like the sort of photograph you'd find on a local newspaper where a man can't remember where he's parked his car, he's kind of got his head in his hands. To me, they're making a mockery of the whole thing, The Guardian. They keep hammering the same story day in, day out. And the reason they're doing it is because I don't think it stands up to scrutiny in the same way. But obviously, 93 people dead, there will be children amongst that, I'm sure. It's very sad. But this newspaper in particular are only reporting this war from one perspective, and it's not giving us any balance.
Are you really surprised that The Guardian takes a particular
totally
stance? It does it on every single issue.
They've also given Steve Cogan only 3 stars. I don't
For what? Oh, Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair to The Guardian, there weren't 93 Israeli civilians killed in Israel today, so they couldn't take a photo of grieving Israeli families. I mean, I think what we're seeing now, for all Israel's military success, there are civilians being killed. And for all that, Palestinians voted for Hamas, for all that, Hamas ran Gaza terribly, it could have been Singapore. It could have been Singapore on the Mediterranean. Instead, they turned it into, just another ISIS enclave.
They spent
basically.
it on tunnels, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, obviously, The Guardian hate Israel because it's civilization and progress, and they want everybody to be a Stone Age barbarian.
Yep.
But and they're communists.
No, and they're right to report on civilian casualties, and it is an absolute tragedy. Of course, it is. But like you say, what are you going to do when you have a group like Hamas not giving up the hostages, not surrendering?
That's the only bargaining chip they've got.
Well, we've heard nothing of the sausages either.
Oh, I forgot about the sausages. OK, let's move on to the Star. What's up with this cat, Leo?
So this is Grumpy Cat, a famous cat from the internet. And they ask how Grumpy Cat got so grumpy.
I've never heard of him.
You've never heard of it? You must have seen that picture of Grumpy Cat
I've never seen that picture in my life. What the hell is this cat about?
This is a cat that's famous for looking grumpy. And, people have wondered, why is this cat so grumpy? And they've found out, they did DNA tests on it. They found out his DNA is 84% Deborah Meaden.
Ah, interesting. Is that not just a fake picture of a cat?
No, it's real.
No, he's very upset.
That's a real cat.
It's it's got feline dwarfism and an underbite.
OK, Paul, why is this front page news? Just remind me.
It's not, Andrew. It just happens to
right
be
there,
the Daily Star, which is only ever read by headliners panellists.
Oh yeah, we're basically.
I don't even know if I've ever seen this in the shop. What I'd like is for our readers to write to the website, with their comments during the break and tell us if they like the Daily Star and if they think this is big news.
And if they wanted us to cover the Sunday Sport, which I think is a fantastic newspaper.
Oh, no, I think that's the backbone of British journalism.
Yeah, that has been the back of some bones.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I do like the Sunday Sport because they often comment on my tweets.
Yeah, they
do they really?
And they're really funny. They're really funny and incisive.
They're genuinely funny.
Oh, yeah, there's this story here. Millet makes new push for Falklands return. Yeah. Now, this is interesting.
Oh,
Javier Millet he basically is the new Thatcher.
Your favourite leader.
And our government is the new Peronists.
Yeah.
So
Are you a fan of Millet?
Oh, absolutely.
With the whole chainsaw
He's the greatest man. He's the greatest man who ever lived.
He's a showman.
If he could take over the whole world, nothing would be better.
I think
Forever. Make him Caesar.
He might like to, Leo.
All right, well, look, that's the front page is done. But coming up, Jenrick gets a scolding, Starmer gets a backbone, and the Catholic Church faces a scandal. And you'll never guess what it is. See you after the break.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
The former royal correspondent for the Sun newspaper, Charles Ray. Good to see you this morning, Charles, and so good to see Catherine back to work with a hug.
It is. It's fantastic. I mean, there are a few royal jobs that touch at the heartstrings, and this is certainly one of those. And I think it's the first time we've actually seen Catherine back in a royal duty since she herself confirmed that she'd finished chemotherapy.
Done so much, haven't they, the Princess of Wales and the King, to raise awareness for these cancers.
Here we have both the King and Catherine having, explained to the nation and the rest of the world that they were battling or are still battling cancer, just like everyone else.
How sincere is all of this? I mean, it looks like she's a wonderful, kind, caring woman, but I don't know. I've never met her.
Well, she is a wonderful, kind, caring woman. That is without a shadow of a doubt. And William heard about this young lady on a visit to the air ambulance, and they invited her because she's a photographer, so she wanted to take. She has a bucket list and wanted to take pictures of an investiture. I mean, make no mistake, people like Catherine are just absolutely wonderful in what they do and how they do it. I mean, and Catherine is the superstar of the royal family. Of that, there is no doubt.
It's the cockles of my heart, Charles. It really does. It's really good to see you. Thanks very much.
All the
Thanks,
best.
Charles. Thanks. And Liz, who is this 16-year-old amateur photographer who was hugged by Princess of Wales yesterday, has said it was a dream come true.
I bet it was.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Wednesday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle, of course, with me, Leo Kearse and Paul Cox. We're going to kick off this section with Wednesday's Mirror. And Keir Starmer wants to stop the truth being censored. Why the change of heart?
So Keir Starmer vows to stop rich and powerful silencing journalists as he sounds AI warning. So he hasn't pressed a buzzer. He hasn't got an AI warning buzzer. He's just warning about AI. But he says, with regards to the censorship, so apparently rich and powerful people use these things called strategic lawsuits against public participation, called SLAPs.
SLAPs, I've heard of these.
Slap people down. So they use them to silence journalists. And
oligarchs do it.
Oligarchs do it because they've got lots of money. So you can, I think it's basically like lawfare, like the government uses against the people of this country. But oligarchs use it against journalists who are going to report on stuff about them. And sometimes, valid stories. Because sometimes journalists do come up with valid stories, so they get
and it works.
Down.
Like if you're throwing millions of pounds at a lawsuit, people will back off.
Yeah,
they're scared.
And it's it's fair enough. But also, what about people like Chris Cabba's family who had that legal thing that meant there's a restriction on reporting, or the enormous left-wing bias in all the media, including GB News Tonight. I'm sorry, guys, but you're a pair of lefties compared to me. The enormous
difficult, Leo.
The enormous government influence in the media. What about advertising boycotts that affect the media? But no, I mean, what he's doing is he's talking about, he just wants his own restrictions to be on the media. So, they're going to bring in the online safety law, restrictions around misinformation, so the government will be deciding what can be reported.
This is strange, though, because I thought that Labour were going to introduce Leveson and sort of crack down on press freedom and all this sort of stuff. Now they're ostensibly sticking up for the press.
Obviously, the psychology behind this is something we all support, and it's essential that we have freedom of speech and freedom of press in order to uphold the freedoms of this country. I'm very suspicious of Keir Starmer saying it. It just, from the ideological standpoint that Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, etc., stand at, I just don't see them supporting this. And I wonder why they do. You've got to look no further, actually, than something like BBC Verify. I think BBC Verify is one of the most disturbing elements of our current media situation. This is a tax-funded, national media service that verifies itself, and very rarely picks up on anything it does or says, and tends to attack the people it disagrees with.
Yeah, most fact checkers, though, most fact checking websites,
exactly,
they need fact checkers.
They do, and I just think when it's taxpayer funded, there's something Machiavellian about it. There's something I really do not trust.
You with your conspiracy theories, Paul.
Well, it might well be.
Let's move on to Wednesday's Independent now. And what Jenrick said this time, the scamp.
Oh, the old scampy Jenrick. Robert Jenrick has been accused of an obnoxious distortion of history after saying former British colonies should be grateful for the legacy of empire.
Is that exactly what he said?
Well, the quotes are that he said... yeah, exactly. Those are the quotes. In quotes, that he actually said, many of our former colonies, amid complex realities of empire, owe us a debt of gratitude for the inheritance we left them. And I find what's fascinating, particularly about this, Andrew, is why this would be considered controversial.
Because they're saying that he's supporting colonialism or saying empire was a good thing. And someone's even accused him of suggesting that slavery was a good thing. I don't think he did say that.
So, OK, this is because the biggest growing industry in the West is the industry of grievance. And without a doubt, you know...
You should get into it.
Yeah.
You've got a lot to be grievancing about.
Yeah, exactly. The cost of cheese, for a start. We've put a value on offence, and by doing so, everybody's easily offended. Yeah. And the commodity of offence has gone through the roof. This industry... Go on, Leo.
Well, I was just going to say, this is I mean, sort of beyond offence to just blatant misreading and misunderstanding of economics. I mean, Britain didn't siphon off wealth from foreign countries. Britain introduced the institutions and the technology that allowed wealth to be generated. Wealth is generated, and that's why, you know, Haiti has enormous natural resources, huge amounts of, you know, what you would describe as wealth there, mineral resources and things like that, also all the natural resources, but it can't leverage them because they don't have the institutions and the infrastructure that a country or an empire like Britain would put in. I mean, the only bad thing Britain ever did around the world was not finishing the Crusades.
Leo, I mean,
that's a fact.
Is it not a moral issue, though? Like, all the economic things aside, you know, going into someone else's country, that should be a red line, right?
Well, when we went into those countries, we automatically became citizens of those countries, just like people coming here do.
So you would be fine with France coming over to invading England?
These people are being very anti-immigration.
They do every day on small dinghies.
They're being very anti-immigration. When Britain went to India, that was just immigration. I thought immigration was good.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about this.
My point, actually, and I never quite finished it, so just in case I get clipped, is democracy itself. If that's the gift we gave, no matter what we did, it's a precious gift. Democracy is the backbone of all good societies.
Sure, but you know there were some atrocities during the empire, right? Amritsar massacre, for instance.
Yes, I'm not disagreeing with that. The point Jenrick was making is the thing we left behind was democracy, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I stand by my analogy, which is we have an industry of grievance.
All right, we're going to move on to the Times now, and the Ministry of Defence have just announced their new super weapon, a big ball of red tape.
Yeah, so civil servants in the Ministry of Defence outnumber the Navy and RAF personnel. So as the size of the armed forces shrinks, it's shrinking. It's going to dip below 70,000 next year, apparently. We've got the smallest armed forces, the smallest size of the military of our trained armies.
And too many civil servants.
Since the Napoleonic era. And yet there are 63,702 civilians working in the department. So and this is increasing. So as our number of soldiers goes down, the number of civil servants goes up. And if you want to hear a terrifying figure, civil servant numbers have increased overall from 384,000 in 2016 to over 500,000 full-time staff in March this year.
But the solution is, you know, if we ever go to war, we just get the civil servants to fight it.
Yeah.
They can't fight.
They're pretty tough.
They can't even do any work.
Yeah, but they can, you know, they can complain about diversity issues and things like that.
Who doesn't want to see the head of DEI pacify the enemy with their lived experience?
Yeah, well, you know,
that's what I want to see.
It might work. OK, interesting. Let's move on to this story. This is The Independent now. Tommy Robinson, what's going on?
Tommy Robinson will reportedly spend time in solitary confinement in one of the most notorious prisons after he was jailed for contempt of court. So Robinson, known as Stephen Yatchley Lennon, of course, admitted to breaching a High Court injunction preventing him from repeating libelous allegations against Syrian refugee Jamal Hijazi. So, I mean, obviously, Belmarsh is not the usual place we send people who are convicted of contempt of court.
But my understanding it's a high-security prison because he is at risk in prison, right?
He is very much at risk in prison.
So isn't that the point? It's for his protection, isn't that right?
Because of his work against the Muslim community. Unfortunately...
He would contest that. He would say he's not against the Muslim community. He's against criminals, right?
Well, OK, yeah, absolutely. I can agree with that. However, he is very much he's much more in danger in prison than he is out of prison.
Sure.
And without, you know, I'm not the biggest advocate for Tommy Robinson. I don't follow his trials and tribulations. I understand his work with regards to the grooming gangs. However, this does feel a little bit like he's becoming more and more political prisoner.
Political prisoner, that's quite an extreme thing. Didn't he just break contempt of court laws?
Yeah, but I mean, he seemed to get quite a disproportionate sentence, from my understanding.
Is that disproportionate? I don't know. I don't know what the norm is.
Well, the maximum is 2 years. He got 18 months, right. And it's, you know, I mean, when we're seeing violent criminals being freed from jail to make space for people who, you know, breach some restriction on a civil case, I don't know. It doesn't seem. It seems pretty obvious to me that they're finding everything they can to bring him down. They're using lawfare against him, effectively. And there are some parallels with Navalny. Navalny was also a nationalist, you know, a patriot, obviously a Russian patriot, and Navalny was sent to prison to die. And, you know, I think there are a lot of people on the left who are hoping he'll be killed in Belmarsh. And a third of Belmarsh's inmates are Muslim. And obviously Tommy Robinson, having spoken out against crimes committed by grooming gangs, by Muslim terrorists, he's going to be a target.
I know he said that when he was in prison before, he was a target of certain Muslim inmates. But my understanding is that the high security here that's the reason why they've gone for this. So.
My understanding is that he's going to be moved from the high security because of cost reasons. I'm not sure how valid.
Well, we don't know. OK, well, let's move on to The Guardian now. A story about the Catholic Church. Leo, you got this?
So the Catholic Church is still failing to deal with sexual abuse cases, says a Vatican report. So this is the Vatican effectively marking its own homework. They've commissioned, an
They haven't given themselves a good mark.
No, they haven't. So this is the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors, which said the Church was still failing to ensure that clerical sexual abuse cases were dealt with adequately, and also criticised the Vatican office, which is supposed to process the complaints, of being slow and secretive.
But what do they mean exactly?
The Vatican, slow and secretive. I mean, sure.
No, but I know that there were allegations years ago about, you know, a priest would be found guilty of sexual assault and would be moved on to another. But that's not happening anymore, is it?
No, but I mean, apparently things like that are still going on. I mean, I'm not...
Really? Forgive my cynicism, but the Vatican's Child Protection Commission, isn't that a bit like the KFC's Chicken Protection Commission?
No, I'm not going to have this Catholic bashing.
I'm really sorry.
You bloody heathen.
I know, yeah, I'm Church of England, and you have every right to hate me as you do, Andrew. But I just don't see that they're left. It's a bit like BBC Verify all over again. They're left in charge of A, verifying their own crimes, and B, trying to rectify their own crimes.
Yeah, but they've been really harsh on themselves here. They're saying there is a problem.
They've been ever so harsh on themselves. They've given themselves a right slap on the bottom, Andrew, haven't they?
Probably enjoyed it.
This is outrageous. Let's move on now. This is to the... Is this The Guardian? No, this is The Mirror.
The Mirror, yeah.
OK, oh, we're not doing this now. We're going to have a break. Sorry. Slick as all hell. Up next, though, CNN, can't take a joke. Monopoly gets a new set of rules. And find out who's getting laid against their will. Oh, dear.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite cloudy this evening, and as we head into tomorrow, though, it should be largely dry. But where we see those clear spells overnight, we are expecting to see some mist and fog, which may be quite slow to clear during the morning. That's because we've got an area of high pressure moving a ridge towards the UK, so that's bringing largely dry, fine and settled conditions today and as we head into this week. On the whole then, this evening, a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, staying largely dry, though there may just be some spots of rain and drizzle, this mainly around hilly areas. And where we see those clearer skies, that's where we'll see the mist and fog develop, which may just be slow to clear during the morning. Feeling a little chilly under those clearer skies, but on the whole a fairly mild night, so a mild start to Wednesday. A bit of a mixed bag really. We've got plenty of cloud across Scotland, though it is going to be largely dry. Just a few showers beginning to feed into the Northern Isles. Once again largely dry across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, though still can't rule out spots of rain and drizzle, particularly around those hillier areas. Across the rest of England and Wales, a dry start. Once again a mix of cloud and those clearer spells and that mist and fog, which may just be slow to clear. But as that high pressure builds for Wednesday, there'll be plenty of dry weather around. Some cloudier skies at times, but once again we will see some brighter spells. Just starting to see some showers and some longer spells of rain starting to creep into the Northern Isles as we head into the afternoon. Now we're going to see a slight dip in those temperatures tomorrow, but it's still largely mild for the time of year. For Thursday, it's a fairly similar picture. Once again, some mist and fog to start, but it is going to be largely dry. Damp across Scotland, though, particularly as we head into the afternoon, starting to see some longer spells of rain, particularly across the Northern Isles once again. But on the whole, plenty of dry, settled weather around and remaining fairly similar to end of the week and as we head into the weekend. And temperatures rather mild once again for the time of year.
Budget Day on GB News tomorrow. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight
and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is,
who's going to pay it?
Budget Day, tomorrow on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Wednesday's newspapers. We're going to jump straight back in with the Mirror now. Paul, and this pager joke really bombed.
It did. Great work. CNN guest Ryan Gadusky thrown off air after making sickening pager joke at Muslim journalist.
We're talking about Mehdi Hassan here.
Yeah, we are. So the television the debate between Muslim journalist Mehdi Hassan and right-wing commentator Ryan Gadusky ended ungracefully as a comment after a comment referring to an attack on Hezbollah terrorists.
OK, so what's going on here? Because my understanding is that Mehdi Hassan had accused Ryan of
calling him
of being a Nazi.
Yeah, well, this whole thing...
Right?
Right, OK.
Is that right?
Yeah,
is anybody not a Nazi?
Right.
Everyone's a Nazi.
Everyone's a Nazi.
Don't worry
So,
about it.
first of all, the comment, the joke really was, I hope your beeper doesn't go off.
Well, Leo laughed.
That's a great joke.
It was... By the way, you're asking a panel of comedians if that's bad. No, it's not bad. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. However...
Yeah, but isn't the reason it's bad is because it's directed at a Muslim person who has nothing to do with terrorism?
No, absolutely.
That makes it funnier.
But at the same, but at the same time, they're very ready to accuse other people. So
that's the point, isn't it? Mehdi Hassan is accusing him of being a Nazi.
Yeah.
Is that what he did?
Well, absolutely.
And so therefore, he can accuse him of being a terrorist, I guess. If that's the rules, if these words mean nothing anymore, we'll just go back and forth.
And that's exactly why the joke works, because if you are going to argue on a ridiculous premise premise that Donald Trump and that rally was a Nazi rally, which quite clearly it was not a Nazi rally. It really undermines the whole Nazism. Yeah. There are real Nazis out there quite upset about that comparison. let me tell you. I speak to some of them.
It was fun. It was a really ethnically diverse white supremacist rally.
Yeah, there were lots of Jewish people at this rally.
Black people, Hispanic people,
just
gay
like
people.
Nuremberg.
Yeah, they had loads of Star of Davids at Nuremberg.
Yeah, it's really dangerous, though, to sort of, denature and sort of almost... The left are almost rehabilitating the name Hitler and the Nazis. Now people who, don't know what the Nazis were will think, oh, they were just like Trump. They were just like this sort of socially liberal, fun guy. And that's very...
Kind of misleading,
That's not what the Nazis were like at all. And also what this shows is, like, left-wing people are no fun. And this is why Kamala's going to lose the election. Because, she just goes around, like, the left just go around saying, oh, you can't joke about that.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Leo.
Me.
Leo, Mehdi Hassan said that he thought that this guy was inciting violence against him. Yeah. He said that he thought he was saying the Muslim guy should be blown up. Well, was he saying that, Leo? Was he calling for the actual death of Mehdi Hassan?
He was in his throwaway comment about him having a beeper, which was good because the guy had just mentioned Palestine or Palestinian rights or something like that. So it was a relevant comment. He was actually he was calling in an IDF airstrike on him.
These stories force anybody with any intellect to defend Donald Trump, and the reason they do is Donald Trump has been shot in the head.
Yeah.
Because people call him a Nazi. So it's enraged people on the left to the point and to an hysterical state that they will try and assassinate Donald Trump.
It's quite insane. I mean, the MSNBC coverage of that rally was beyond deranged.
Oh, my God.
I mean, the guy was talking about, they were showing the image of the rally, and then he said, and many years ago, another fascist was holding a rally in this building, and then it cut to, like, Nazis goose-stepping and all the rest of it, but the building wasn't even there. It was a different building.
And it was as if that's the only two uses that have ever been for that venue.
Yeah. I know.
It's like,
but it wasn't even the same venue.
Just Hitler. And then Trump,
and Bruce Springsteen and the Spice Girls or whatever were also evil fascists.
You might as well say that Donald Trump is Mel B.
Well, not out of the realms of possibility.
Similar colour.
OK, let's move on now. Now, this is an interesting one. Daily Mail. Apparently, this is incredible, white children should be given more money in Monopoly. Why?
So white children playing Monopoly should be given more money and less jail time to teach them about racial privilege, councils tell parents. I don't know why councils are doing this. It's mental. And also, they also say that nursery rhymes such as Baba Black Sheep should be avoided as they're steeped in white culture. Yeah, I think a lot of things in Britain are going to be steeped in white culture because for quite a long time it was, quite a white country. So we weren't calypso dancing in the 1600s.
How is a black sheep racist? I've seen many black sheep.
I think they're saying. I mean, obviously, when this nursery rhyme was written, it wasn't a racist nursery rhyme. It was just about a black sheep.
Yeah.
And because they didn't have a whole lot of black people. It wasn't the National Front being like, let's write some nursery rhymes about this allegory. No, it's absolute nonsense. But the thing is, our taxes, for all that Rachel Reeves says, we're under austerity. How come they got money to pay people to sit in councils which don't do any work anyway? But when they do work, they're just teaching people how to be more racist and how to be more socially divisive. When white children play Monopoly, they should be given more money and less jail time to teach them about racial privilege. That is racist.
Is this a real story? And the reason I say that is because I remember all those years ago, there was a front cover of the Daily Express about Baba rainbow sheep.
Yes.
And they were talking about how this nursery had changed the words. But it wasn't to do with race at all. They were just making up a song to teach the kids about the colour of the rainbow. Race hadn't even crossed their mind. So it was all a big myth, like a kind of PC gone mad myth. Is it true that people are actually suggesting that Monopoly should be used to teach racial privilege, or is this just one of those myths again?
There will be sort of a mental patient in a council somewhere who does believe this stuff.
Oh no, this is big
and has said it out loud.
This is definite, is it?
This is co-authored by a BBC education consultant. So this is going to be in the curriculum.
Yeah, the trouble is that this sort of thing can happen today. Because everything has gone that unhinged.
Yeah.
So I sort of can believe it, but I wish it wasn't true.
Keir Starmer took the knee. This is going to end up in the national curriculum.
Yeah, good point. OK, we're going to move on now to The Guardian. This is a Jeff Bezos story. and he's not going to endorse anyone.
No, he's not. Jeff Bezos defends decision to end Washington Post endorsements. Jeff Bezos, the billionaire, of course, we all know he is. He's now the owner of the Washington Post, if you weren't aware. And he's penned a column in his own newspaper defending the decision not to endorse a candidate in the US presidential election.
But they always have, haven't they? I mean, the Washington Post has always endorsed the Democrats, historically speaking.
They have done. And the reason he has said not to is he says endorsements create a perception of bias. I mean, yes, they do, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
They really, really do. And he's decided to remain neutral. And the reason he's decided to remain neutral is because Kamala Harris is a bin fire. How could you possibly back Kamala Harris to do anything?
I think it's more simple than that. I think he's reached the point, the ethical point, and he's right, I think, that newspapers shouldn't be endorsing one way or the other. It's much better for the newspaper not to be that partisan.
And seriously, you actually make it, as always, Andrew, make a very good point there. Neutrality is something that should be taught to the journalists at the Washington Post.
Right.
It's the journalists that have come out complaining that they haven't been politically biased.
Yeah, and it's interesting that neutrality is seen as bias.
Yes.
You know, people are like, this is tacit support for Trump. But it's like, no, he's being neutral. Like, you're being absolutely insane.
He should have done it ages ago. That's the problem. If he'd have done it months and months ago, no one would have noticed.
But if he'd done it ages ago, what's happened is he's started his testosterone replacement treatment. Have you seen him? He's looking absolutely ripped. So this stuff, all men are going to start taking testosterone replacement therapy, and it's going to save.
Actually?
Yeah. And I think so. Anyways, like, he's looking absolutely jacked. This is going to save humanity. As men take this stuff, they become more based and more right-wing, and they support Donald Trump, and they start laughing at jokes again and having a good time, and they get hot Latina girlfriends, and it's all going to be fantastic.
They also have very serious side effects, don't they? Testosterone supplements.
There are, as far as I know, testosterone has no negative side effects.
Really? I don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true. Anyway, let's move on now to the Telegraph. And Elon is doing free speech wrong, according to the party that hates free speech.
Yeah.
So this is...
you've got it.
Elon Musk is wrong about free speech, says Peter Kyle, who's the science secretary. So you'd think the science secretary of this country's government would be a big fan of Elon Musk because he is pushing forward scientific advancement at an incredible rate. He's got all these different industries, Neuralink, he's got SpaceX, he's really pushing stuff forward. And also, he's making it incredibly profitable, so he's got huge amounts of money to invest. He could really help this country out and push forward R&D in this country. But he's been snubbed. So Mr. Kyle, he denied he'd snubbed Mr. Musk after the entrepreneur was not invited to this month's International Investment Summit. But he wasn't invited, and I'm sure this guy had some sort of say in it. And also, he's now snubbing Elon Musk by saying he's got a very different view from Elon Musk on freedom of speech, and says it should not extend to the right or the opportunity to harm others. I mean, define harm. Somebody calling you a silly Billy on Twitter isn't actually harming you.
Isn't this a bit of a straw man? Elon Musk isn't suggesting that people should have the right to harm others. I've never heard him say that.
He's not at all, and this is sort of the usual attacks on free speech from the left. Free speech on their terms only. It's fascinating. They don't see the irony of what they're saying at any point at all. And then they follow up with an accusation of harm. And, of course, it's baseless because they provide zero evidence. What he does go on to say is hypothesised by the Telegraph, and it hasn't been said by anyone, after the fatal stabbings of 3 young girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport, covered earlier by Leo extensively, Mr. Musk posted on X to predict a civil war and repeatedly attacked Sir Keir Starmer. That's not harmful. He said he basically said if you treat your civilians as if they're right-wing thugs for being upset about the stabbing of 3 young girls, then you are far right.
Yeah.
That is going to cause civil unrest. It's not him saying go and cause civil unrest.
Yeah, it was a prediction. It was a warning. It wasn't anything less. And snubbing Elon Musk is like snubbing Da Vinci. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I think maybe the government should look at the world's smartest, richest guy, and maybe if he's so smart, maybe he's got a better grasp of some of these issues than they do.
Well, surely I'm just disturbed that a cabinet minister doesn't understand what free speech is. How did you get the job?
Yeah, but they always talk about this harm, like this in the online safety bill. This idea that harmful speech, but
even that it's called the online safety bill.
Yeah.
It's the lexicon of the woke. It's ridiculous. Okay, well look, that's the end of part 3. But look, in part 4. We're going to be talking about apps spying on world leaders, a crackdown on Halloween costumes, and a map leading us all the way to Noah's Ark. Don't want to miss it.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Millions are struggling to stay warm with the wet weather, the cost of living and, of course, cuts to fuel payments.
Yes, winter is fast approaching, so it's crucial to find cost-effective ways to save on your energy expenses whilst staying reasonably warm.
So joining us to provide advice on heating your home, or at least staying warm somehow, is one of the leading voices on lowering energy bills, Nick Miles. And you are very welcome in here this morning. I mean, a lot of people say, well, in the olden days, you just used to put on an extra jumper. But actually, it's more serious than that, isn't it? What is the best way, the most cost-effective way to keep your home warm?
Some of the bigger things is we need to do more things on insulating our properties, but actually sometimes, it can be simple things like turning down a thermostat. Those that have got the luxury of being able to afford energy bills and keep their homes on the thermostat a bit too high. If you just turn it down by 1 simple degree, as long as you keep it between 18 and 22 degrees, can save up to 5 to 10% of your energy bill. So that's a kind of a very simple way of doing things, but, it can be other little tips and tricks you can do as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I always get it when people say about this, but like 18 degrees is not warm for a house.
No, and it's twofold actually. It's that kind of relative temperature, but also it's the kind of drafts and things you have in your house. So it's the comfort factor. So what we have a lot of old properties in our country. You've got some 8 million hard-to-treat properties built before World War II that have got poor insulation, but also very, very drafty. So it's the temperature and it's the kind of the draftiness of them that kind of keeps us uncomfortable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel. Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Wednesday's newspapers. We're going to kick this section off with The Independent. It turns out this fitness app could be bad for your health if you're a world leader.
Which one? Oh, this. Yeah, sorry. So the location of world leaders, including Putin, Trump and Macron, has been revealed by security teams Strava. So Strava is this app that tracks where you run, but unfortunately by showing where you are, it shows where you are.
So the bodyguards are using this app that tracks them.
Yeah.
And people are just hacking it and finding out where they are.
And people, they don't even need to hack it. I think a lot of people just upload or have it automatically posted to their face. But you're always seeing people's boring bike rides that they've had. Oh, I went on this bike ride. Nobody cares. It's
How
bike
did
ride.
the Secret Service not know about that?
Yeah, they're not a very secret service. Well, the US Secret Service told the newspaper that it did not believe the protection it provides was in any way compromised. So that's reassuring after 3 assassination attempts on Trump.
One of them just from the top of the shed 100 metres away.
What do you make of this, Paul? I mean, it's quite self-evidently absurd.
Yeah, it's how the world's going to end, isn't it? The improper use of an app.
Yeah.
Is where we're going to progress to. I mean, just thinking back, just recently, the Labour activist who advertised on LinkedIn, causing a diplomatic crisis across the Atlantic because she was trying to invite other grassrooters to join her in supporting the Democrats. And it's just, we're so exposed now and everything's so available, but you would expect someone who's working as a security guard against some of the world's most powerful people just to not use the app.
Yeah.
You assume they're fit anyway.
Dead
They're
easy.
fit anyway.
Yeah.
The people who need to be on the app look like me.
Yep, quite. OK, well, let's move on to the Daily Mail. There's a clampdown on Halloween costumes. Presumably you'll still be going as Justin Trudeau?
Yes, I will
so
be.
long as you can find the right shade of brown.
Exactly. I've got it all at home. I can find it. Communist cops' Halloween costume clampdown. So Chinese police round up revellers wearing fun outfits such as Batman and Jesus. Those two always go together, don't they? Revellers celebrating Halloween in China's capital found themselves detained by cops who demanded they remove their fancy dress. And where China leads, I am sure Labour will follow. It's only a matter of time.
OK, so talk us through this. Why is this an issue?
It's an issue because in capitalist, Freudian slip, in communist countries, Andrew, which you'll be aware of, like Chinese, they don't like fun and they don't like any mockery of anything.
But why target why say that that's Batman? Is Batman too decadent? Is it a symbol of the West? Is that the issue?
Well, absolutely, isn't it? Same as Jesus.
I would say Jesus more than Batman.
Yeah, they don't like religion over there because... the same reasons the Nazis didn't like religion.
Is that what it is, or is it because Batman's a gay icon? Have they got an issue with the gays? What is it?
I think it's because Bat started...
coronavirus. No,
COVID,
yeah.
That's who they assumed they meant by Batman.
It was obviously a biolab leak, and that's something that's moved from being a conspiracy theory.
It was a pangolin licking
to being
a toffee apple.
No, it wasn't. But yeah, this is just what Labour do over here. The woke people are always trying to ban. You can't dress up as Pocahontas. I found out on the bus today. And yeah, I don't know if this was me, I'd be rounding up the sexy cats, putting them in a...
All right, let's have a look at this one now. This is the Telegraph, and the French are considering banning adverts on monuments.
Yeah, so ban adverts on our great monuments, a French MP has suggested. So he wants to ban that apparently of giant adverts covering the facades of monuments in France. It raises a lot of money for the authorities.
Yeah.
So if Paris gets 138 million euros, which is only £115 million for anybody going on holiday. Looks like the euro's slumping against the pound. But yeah,
why is this an issue, though? They're putting adverts up when there's scaffolding over the monuments anyway.
Yeah.
Right, so why is it an issue?
Because people would rather look at the scaffolding. The adverts are disrespectful.
Is that right?
To the Sacré-Cœur.
I mean, isn't it? No, it does.
I mean, this is being supported by the hard-right National Rally Party.
Right.
But without realising, without getting that far in the story, the more I read of this, the more I agreed with it, which obviously makes me hard-right, which I think is an unnecessarily sexual way to describe my politics. But I've always thought it's kind of... I don't know, it just doesn't feel very comfortable to me to take these great monuments anywhere in the world, let alone France.
Yes.
And just cover them with McDonald's signs or whatever it might be.
But it's not that, it's on the scaffolding, it's not on the actual monument.
Still, I mean, behind it...
They're not putting the golden arches on the
Golden arches. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, that's what McDonald's... Yeah.
We've got time for one more just very quickly. This is Robert Downey Jr. in The Guardian. What's going on here?
Robert Downey Jr. will sue all future executives who make AI replicas of him. This is according to him himself.
Yeah, but he said he'll do it even if he's dead.
He did say that, but he also...
He said my lawyers will be living on.
Exactly, and weirdly, he's also investing in AI companies. Right. So he's kind of schizophrenic.
But they do this, though. They bring back dead actors, like Carrie Fisher in that Star Wars film.
Yeah.
And it just creeps the hell out of me. Don't they do that?
Yeah, and also bring back the good ones. Not Carrie Fisher in Star Wars.
She was great in Star Wars.
No, not in the later ones. She wasn't. Maybe it's because she was actually a computer-generated avatar. But yeah, he's also saying that they're using AI to try and reduce the carbon footprint.
Oh well, there we go. Well, look, that's all we've got time for, unfortunately. But I have got time to just quickly run through Wednesday's front covers before we go. So the Mail is leading with Southport suspect had ricin poison and Al Qaeda material. The Telegraph has Southport attacker possessed Al Qaeda material. Same story there. The Guardian also with the Southport suspect story. The Mirror, terror manual and toxin found at home. The Eye is bucking the trend with Reeves hands 6.7% wages rises to lower earners as millions face painful tax increases. And The Star has got how a grumpy cat got grumpy. Key news there from The Star. That is it for tonight's show. Please thank my guests, Leo and Paul. I said that like there's an audience here, but there isn't. Steve N. Allen will be here tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Josh Howie and Lewis Schaefer. And if you're watching at 5 a.m. right now, then please do stay tuned for breakfast. And here we've got the weather. Enjoy it.
Lovely.
There'll be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite cloudy this evening, and as we head into tomorrow, though, it should be